Alright, so as you guys are about to see, we've been doing a lot of welding today. A lot of fixing of equipment, stuff that we've been putting off for a long time, but we actually have the time to fix it this year with all the rain we've been having. So you also saw me using a cheap Harbor Freight welder to do a little tacking. So welding. I'm not an expert welder. If you guys can't tell, I have a lot to learn. Everything I know about it, I've been teaching myself in the backyard and in the shop. Sometimes, you know, it leaves you at a disadvantage for learning because there's a lot of the nuances that you're not going to learn that a professional can teach you. That being said, there's a lot you can learn on your own, just trial and error, you know. What heat's going to work, what kind of rod's going to work, what works for you. So, now, we've got a few cheap tools that work videos out there, a couple of them. I think I'm going to make this one as well, or kind of a tie into fixing the equipment. But so a few years ago for my birthday, I got this guy right here, this Harbor Freight. It's a cheap ass welder. What can you say? It's cheap. Dirt cheap. I think it's, it might be $100 maybe. But that being said, you know, if I can get it open here, it's not all that bad. I mean, it's just a flux core wire welder. You've got your spool right there. It feeds in. I mean, there's a little cheapness there, but it works just like it works fine for what it is. Now you're not going to go and you're not going to weld a bunch of structural stuff up with this thing. That's just not going to happen. So that's something you kind of want to get out of your mind early. You know, this is more for doing, I use it for doing thin metal, 1/8 inch, you know, stuff like that. I much prefer my stick welder. I've never been a big MIG guy. I do have an old Hobart MIG welder I can use. It works well, but I like the stick better. I don't know, there's something about it I like a little better. But this guy here, yeah, it's cheap. It's dirt cheap. Certainly isn't a Cadillac, but I'll tell you what, it gets your ass out of a bind a little bit here and there. It's really not that bad. It works fine for tacking, things like that. Now, like I said, I much prefer my stick welder, but this works for me. Welding helmet. Another thing I got for my birthday a few years ago. You know, that year was a good year for my birthday. This is just a cheap Harbor Freight auto darkening helmet. I've had this thing for 3 or 4 years now. It works fine. It's never let me down. As you can see, the lens, it does have some heat marks. It's not perfect. I mean, there are some, it's not perfect. But it protects my eyes, protects my face, and it gets me through. I would love to have a nice, expensive auto tinting welding helmet, but I can't afford one right now. This works fine. This is like $75 at your Harbor Freight. You know, you could spend all kinds of money trying to get into stuff like this, trying to get into farming, trying to get into homesteading, trying to get into welding, everything. You could spend, God, you could spend all kinds of money. But sometimes if you're like me, you've got a family, you've got a mortgage, you've got to watch your dollar. Sometimes you're going to find something decently cheap. It's going to work for what you need. It's going to get you through. And that's kind of what I do here. Now when that thing breaks, I'll replace it with something better. But I'll tell you what, neither of these two items, they don't owe me a thing. They owe me nothing. I have done so much welding with these two. They paid for themselves. If they burn up tomorrow, they burn up tomorrow. Like I said, they don't owe me nothing. So behind me, we're going to be working with this welder a little bit more tonight. I've got the hay rake behind me. I've got a crack on that I need to weld. It's about an 1/8 inch steel that I have to weld, so it's just right for this guy. Does not leave the prettiest welds. Heat's a pain in the ass to adjust on it, but it gets the job done. And that's what we're going for. That's what's important. Got to get the job done. So anyhow, we're going to continue on. We're going to keep going. Alright, so here's what we have to fix. See this guy right here? See that crack? On the back side of this, see if I can get you around. On the back side, there's a bracket behind there. It gives a little more beef to hold this together, but it just sits in there loose. It's not supposed to be able to slide up or out or anything like that, but as you can see, we're busted up here. Now what I want to do with this is an old hay-bine, and these welds, believe me, this welder is not stellar for penetration or anything like that. It'll get you through though, but I'm not worried if I want to tack this together right here. It's not a big deal for me because it's real easy to grind it off with a cookie wheel. So what I'm going to do is clean this up as best as we can, wire brush and the grinder. Then we're just going to show you how this welder works. And you guys be the judge for yourself if it's something you're trying to get into. Maybe you want one for your own shop, I don't know. So let's see what we can do. Alright, so we got her cleaned up halfway decent. That's something you're going to find with that welder. It does not like rust, it does not like paint, it likes a good clean surface. Now keep in mind, the other reason I don't want to overheat this with a stick welder, I've got a sealed bearing on here, and it is seized right onto this stud that it's through. I mean, to be honest with you, there's no getting it off right now unless I let that thing soak in some penetrating oil for a good long time. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to try to run a bead up here. I'm going to do a little bit there, not a lot, but a little bit. I'm going to try to get some on the back side here. And I want to hit that, just a little scab over that, see what we can do. No, I'm not a gangster, it just helps hold the hat on. Now this welder, it's not the easiest to stitch a weld with. Now it kind of gives you a little bit of a lumpy weld. Like I said, it's a cheap machine. It's made for small stuff. It's not made for heavy use or anything like that. But alright, like I said, they're not pretty, they're not beautiful. I'm not the best welder in the world. It'll work. I just put a button on that just to keep that from cracking worse. So there's decent penetration on it. I gotta clean it up. I could go a little bit more on the top, but I don't want to. You can see in there, I said it's not great, but I will get the job done. So anyhow, that's what we have. So there you have it, guys. There's our cheap ass Harbor Freight Flux core welder. If any of you guys are interested in buying them, you can see how they work. I'm just going to warn you right now, if you're looking for a machine to use day in, day out, do some heavier gauge steel 1/4 inch and up, this guy is not for you. I think it's only rated to 3/16 steel, and to be honest with you, I've tried some before. It just does not work very well for that. It's great for tacking, great for doing sheet metal, it's great for occasional use, but not for your everyday. For the most part, what I use around here, I usually use the stick welder for just about everything. Now, if I have to get somewhere away from the building just to get something tacked together so I can get it back to the building, I've done that quite a few times. I'll use this, no problem. I can haul a little generator out, or a generator out with me. I can run 100 foot of extension cord, no problem. I can do it that way. But like I said, it's more of an occasional use hobbyist welder or just to get your ass out of a bind. Works great if your lawnmower deck's messed up. You know, you can use it. Done it a few times, never had a problem with it. So anyhow, thank you guys for watching. We got plenty of more farm stuff coming up. It is the season, but don't forget, we will have more barn stuff in between. It's just going to be a little bit hit or miss. So you guys have a good evening. I'll catch you the next time.